5 years later, I finally set foot on this familiar land again. No time to adjust to the time difference. As a diligent worker, I had to get back to work the very next day after returning home. The studio was bustling yet orderly, filled with the hum of activity.
Nice moves. Leo, hold that pose. Great expression, perfect. Adjust the lighting a bit more. Good, perfect.
Standing at the edge with my handbag, I watched the young bodies gleaming under the camera, feeling a sense of satisfaction as I envisioned my wallet gradually filling up.
Alex, how did I do just now?
I handed him a bottle of water and a towel.
Perfect.
Leo smugly tossed his hair, the beads of sweat glistening even more under the spotlight. Just as I was about to brief Leo on the next steps, a wave of fan screams erupted at the studio entrance.
Over here, brother. So handsome, look at me. Here.
Following the sound, I saw that the special guest for the shoot had arrived. As the crowd pressed closer, I couldn't dodge in time and got bumped. Leo caught me just in time, saving me from the embarrassing fate of falling in front of everyone. The staff quickly cleared the area, and I finally got a clear view of the special guest. Slender, upward-tilted eyes, a high, delicate nose, tightly pressed lips, and a small mole on the side of his face. James. I stood there, stunned, my mind buzzing. After 5 years abroad, running into my ex on the second day back home was quite the dramatic twist.
Hello, Ms. Emily. This is James, the special guest actor for today's shoot. He will be working with Mr. Leo.
The lighting technician was adjusting the equipment, and the warm lights fell on James's shoulders, doing nothing to soften his stern aura.
Hello, I'm Leo's manager, Emily.
We don't need introductions, do we, Ms. Emily?
Oh, you know each other?
Yes, we're friends.
James's smile froze. He took a step forward, and Leo instinctively stepped in front of me.
Indeed, Ms. Emily is an old friend I've known for many years.
He extended his hand.
Long time no see.
I had no choice but to shake his hand.
Long time no see.
To my surprise, the rest of the shoot went smoothly. James and Leo worked well together. Their chemistry and interactions were intense and compelling. This made me breathe a sigh of relief, but also left me feeling a bit melancholic. 5 years is indeed enough time. Returning home in the evening, Emily felt utterly exhausted. She soaked herself in the bathtub, letting the music she randomly selected drift through the room. How long has it been since I last saw you? I thought you were somewhere far away. Turns out you were living in my heart, accompanying my every breath. How far is the distance? I thought I couldn't sense your presence. Who knew your shadow was so long? Turning around, I could see you. It was Celine's heartbeat, a song James had also sung. No one knew that James, who seemed perfect in every way, actually couldn't sing. That night, James held a guitar, clumsily singing the song for her.
Hello, James. I'm Emily. Interested in being my boyfriend?
You're crazy.
James, I really like your face.
Emily, you're really spoiled.
Emily relaxed, immersing herself in the warm water that instantly enveloped her like a mother's embrace. She silently sank into the water, feeling the oxygen in her chest gradually deplete, as if this could help her forget the things she didn't want to remember.
Alice, I really wish I had never met you.
Your first love is back. I'll step aside. From now on, let's never see each other again.
The intense feeling of suffocation forced Emily to break through the water's surface, gasping for air as she clung to the edge of the bathtub. Her wet hair clung to her cheeks, and the cool air from the air conditioner in the other room made her shiver.
I can't think about it anymore. Just forget it.
She splashed some water on her face, washing away the warmth from the corners of her eyes. The next morning, she got up as usual and went out for breakfast. As the elevator doors opened, she was met with a familiar pair of eyes.
Ms. Emily, aren't you coming in?
James held the elevator door open, his expression somewhat mocking. Seeing that he had no intention of letting go and seemed determined not to close the door unless she entered, she had no choice but to step inside. Even though it was a high-end apartment elevator, it felt like a metal cage at that moment. She stood by the door, silent.
Ms. Emily, it's been 5 years. Don't you have anything to say to me?
Through the mirror, Emily met James's gaze. Perhaps it was because she had a nightmare all night and didn't rest well. Under James's intense gaze, she felt a bit dizzy. She took 2 steps back, the cold elevator wall making her shiver. She steadied herself and forced a formal smile.
James, I remember we broke up 5 years ago. It was you who said you hoped we would never see each other again.
The basement floor arrived.
Goodbye, Mr. James.
Emily walked past the stunned James and strode out. Behind her, she seemed to hear James mutter.
No.
Her steps faltered. Emily tried to keep her composure as she faced a man in front of her.
Good morning, Miss Smith. He leaned in, whispering, So, Miss Smith, I heard that the special guest for yesterday's shoot was the popular actor James. How was it? Is he as handsome in person? Isn't he super good-looking?
Emily opened her mouth to respond, but Secretary Wong interrupted.
Ms. Smith, the president wants to see you.
Emily made her way to the president's office and knocked on the door.
Alex is here. Come in.
She sat across from Tom, who got straight to the point.
Did you see James yesterday?
Yes, in fact, I ran into him in the apartment elevator this morning.
Tom looked worried.
Do you want me to find you a new place so you can move out quickly?
No need, Senior. I think James would rather not see me. She sighed and continued, given how things ended, he must be avoiding me.
For the next week or so, Emily didn't run into James again. She heard that James's new film was in the works, so it was normal not to see him. One day, Emily's phone buzzed with a message from her best friend.
Emily. Help. SOS.
Emily smiled helplessly at the message.
What do you want me to do? Just say it.
Please, Emily, go for me. If you end up hitting it off, it would be a match made in heaven. Don't worry, this time a guy is super handsome.
In the evening at a private restaurant, Emily met this super handsome guy.
Hello, Ms. Emily. I was introduced by your aunt. My name is Michael. The man in front of her was the typical finance guy, dressed in a well-fitted suit with silver-framed glasses, exuding a refined yet somewhat predatory vibe.
I'm sorry, Mr. Michael, my name is Emily. Ms. Emily had something come up last minute, so I hope you understand.
Michael was momentarily taken aback, but accepted the situation gracefully.
That's no problem at all. What kind of tea do you like, Ms. Emily?
Green tea is fine.
That's unfortunate. I personally prefer black tea. He took a sip of his tea, understanding this was a polite way of declining.
The evening continued with polite conversation, both of them knowing that this was just a formality, and not the
Relieved the early spring weather is always unpredictable. Just after finishing our meal, a light drizzle began to fall.
Michael stood with me under the eaves, waiting for the valet to bring the car. Seeing the raindrops, he chivalrously took off his coat and draped it over my shoulders.
Friendly, it's chilly, Miss Emily. Please take care.
No wonder he was recommended by my aunt. His demeanor and manners perfectly matched his super handsome appearance.
Cheerful James, this role is truly tailor-made for you. No one fits it better.
But James didn't move.
Concerned James, what's wrong? Why aren't you moving?
Hearing the familiar name, I couldn't help but look in that direction. A middle-aged man, who looked like an investor, was surrounded by people as he walked towards the entrance with James. In the light drizzle, James stood still, staring at me. His face appeared even more indistinct in the rain. His gaze lightly fell on the men's jacket on my shoulders, his expression unreadable. After what felt like an eternity, James turned to his agent beside him.
Serious, let's go.
Evening apartment. In the bathroom, steam rose and shadows were blurred. The sound system played a song by an unknown artist, its melancholic tune echoing in the small bathroom. I stared blankly at the tiles on the ceiling, my mind filled with chaotic thoughts. Those eyes that were unreadable tonight were not like this many years ago. When we first met, those eyes were full of youthful pride and righteousness.
Angry bullying a woman. How can you even dare?
Later, those eyes were filled with helplessness and amusement.
Amused Emily, are you always this clingy?
And then, those eyes showed powerlessness.
Sad Emily, do you only like my face?
When we finally parted, those eyes were red-rimmed, full of sarcasm and anger, perhaps even relief.
Angry Emily, your first love is back. I'll step aside. We will never meet again.
Memories I thought I had forgotten were suddenly and unexpectedly awakened. Knock, knock, knock. The urgent knocking on the door interrupted my thoughts. I quickly put on a bathrobe, picked up my phone, and went to the door. When I opened it, it was James. James seemed a bit drunk, leaning weakly against the wall, his cheeks slightly flushed.
Surprise so late, Mr. James. What brings you here?
James stepped forward and unexpectedly grabbed my wrist.
Angry Emily, you never used to call me Mr. James. Serious James, you're drunk. Shouting, I'm very sober. Emily, you left for 5 years, cut off all contact with everyone, living freely. Emily, after all this time, did you and your first love end up together?
James's words were sharp. I clenched my fists, refusing to back down.
Serious, thanks for your concern. We are already married.
James seemed stunned by my response. The smell of alcohol filled the air, as if trying to trap me in this space. I turned to go inside, but James grabbed my sleeve, his voice strained.
Hopeful Emily, are you joking? Serious, we got married long ago, abroad. What, do you want to see the marriage certificate?
James was silent for a long time before finally letting go of my sleeve.
Sadha, I see.
James staggered, pressed the elevator button, and left. The bustling cafe was filled with the aroma of coffee and the hum of chatter. Emily and Alice were seated at a corner table, sipping their drinks.
Why did you tell him you were married?
What if James still has feelings for you? By saying that, aren't you cutting off any chance?
Alice ordered another drink, taking occasional sips, her eyes distant.
Emily, what we had wasn't a normal relationship. There's no chance of rekindling anything.
From beginning to end, Alice's relationship with James was anything but normal.
5 years ago, James acted heroically and chased away some troublemakers who were bothering me. I fell for him at first sight. To be precise, I fell for his looks at first sight.
During her teenage years, Alice had a long-time crush on a senior, but he had his own partner, so she had to bury those feelings deep inside.
Perhaps it was youthful recklessness, but I eagerly and impulsively launched a fierce pursuit of James. The high and mighty flower quickly succumbed to my enthusiasm, and we smoothly became a couple. I gradually became immersed in James, completely forgetting my initial intentions.
They had a beautiful relationship, filled with the sweetest memories. But on their 1-year anniversary, everything changed.
I had the biggest argument ever with my father and ran away from home. It was then that James discovered my original motive for approaching him.
Emily, you were only ever interested in my looks? Fine, very well. Since your first love has returned, let's break up.
Alice was at a loss for words, exhausted, and they broke up. Later, she chose to go abroad and stayed away for 5 years.
James probably resents me more than anything. Even if he doesn't, he likely doesn't want to see me. Saying I'm married is just to sever any last possibility. After all, I don't want to experience that kind of pain again.
Emily didn't say anything more. She silently put down her glass and hugged Alice for a long time.
Hey. There are plenty of men out there. Out with the old, in with the new. Look at all the guys here, you should embrace a new life.
Better to have none than to settle. I need to use the restroom.
Emily waved her hand, enthusiastically helping Alice look for a suitable match. When Alice returned to their booth, she saw the super handsome Michael from last time.
Mr. Michael, what are you doing here?
Alex, what a coincidence. I just turned around and saw Michael. You two really have a connection.
Michael sat obediently next to Emily, his gaze towards Alice completely different. It seemed the person he had a connection with was someone else. After finishing their drinks and seeing Emily off, Michael continued to drive Alice home. As they arrived at the apartment building, Michael caught up with Alice just as she got out of the car.
Ms. Alice, you left your jacket.
Alice took the cardigan from Michael's hand, smiling.
Michael, your true connection isn't with me, is it?
Is it that obvious? I genuinely like Emily. Please look after her in the future, Ms. Alice.
We'll see how you do.
With a playful smile, Alice walked into her apartment building, leaving the possibilities of new beginnings in the air. Emily didn't expect Michael to come prepared this time. The last blind date clearly wasn't a coincidence. As the elevator doors opened, Emily's smile froze upon seeing the person inside.
Ms. Emily, are you coming in?
Emily had no choice but to muster the courage and step into the elevator.
Does your husband know about that guy just now?
Emily almost tripped at his words, suddenly remembering the married status she had fabricated last time.
Of course not.
Hey, 5 years later, you've been quite the player.
James's tone was full of sarcasm, making Emily's nose tingle with emotion. He had never spoken harshly to her in the past, and facing his current disdain was hard to bear.
Being alone in the country, it's inevitable to feel lonely at times.
She noticed James's face turning even darker. The elevator reached her floor. Emily maintained her composure and walked out without looking back. Just as she was about to open her door, she heard the elevator doors open again. The sound of hurried footsteps approached, making her hair stand on end.
Emily.
James looked down at her, gritting his teeth.
Aren't you married? What about him? What right does he have?
How I live my life is none of your business, Mr. James.
James lowered his head, seemingly defeated.
Finding someone else is too troublesome. Emily, we've done this before. Why not continue with me?
The rain in City A had been drizzling for half a month. Though it was spring, there was still a hint of winter's chill. A spring thunderclap exploded, as if it struck Emily's mind. She woke up with a start, the early morning light peeking through the thick curtains, nestling at the foot of the bed. Unable to fall back asleep, she grabbed her phone to check the latest news. The bold red headline caught her eye, and she couldn't help but click on it. The photo showed James embracing a popular young actress. The crowd was noisy, but the handsome man and beautiful woman created quite an atmosphere. Suppressing the inexplicable irritation in her heart, Emily closed the page and got up to go to work. Since James said those words, it had been over half a month since they last met. The next time she saw him was in the news about his exposed relationship. Returning to her apartment after work, Emily ran into James again. The faint smell of alcohol lingered in the small elevator, like invisible chains wrapping around her.
James, you've had quite a bit to drink. Feeling good?
I'm fine.
The elevator stopped at her floor and she stepped out. Turning back, she saw James's body going limp, about to collapse.
James.
She quickly moved forward to catch his swaying figure. Out of humanitarian concern, Emily carried James back to her place.
Sad, I love you so much. James murmured against my shoulder, causing me to pause. Serious, the first time I saw you, I liked you. Cheerful, I really like you. Sad, the photo I saw this morning, along with James' words, crashed into my mind at that moment. These past few days, I've been troubled by what James said, knowing he was deeply embracing his official girlfriend. Relieved, they say people speak the truth when they're under the influence, so it seems James was just toying with me a few days ago. This moment was his true confession. Thankfully. Sad, it felt like countless sharp arrows were piercing towards me, the intense and sharp bitterness welling up in my eyes. I widened my eyes, trying hard to suppress the heat in my eyes, pretending to be calm. Serious, James, have some hot water. I handed the water to James. Sad, James sat on the sofa, his gaze somewhat hazy. His usually upturned eyes now drooped, making him look like a drenched puppy. Obedient, you're here. Sad's tone was so obedient that I doubted if he had mistaken me for someone else. Serious, here, take the hangover medicine. After you take it, call your manager to pick you up. Innocent, I finished it. Serious, call your manager to come pick you up. Shy, I don't have one. Confused, what do you mean? Shy, no phone. Serious, I was speechless and fished out his phone from his coat. Serious, unlock it and I'll contact him for you. Innocent, I forgot the password. Relieved, you can't argue with someone in this state. I took a deep breath and placed the cup in the kitchen. When I came back, just a few minutes later, James was already fast asleep on my sofa. Sad, James' tall frame, broad shoulders, and narrow waist made him look pitiful curled up on the small sofa. I walked quietly, squatting beside him, looking at this face that was both familiar and strange to me. Whispering, don't go, don't leave me. Sad, there was no clearer moment than this to realize that James and I had truly been apart for 5 years. I am a mere manager in an entertainment company, and he is a hot, sought-after star. We are so close, yet so far apart. He has a new love, a new story. None of it concerns me, the person from 5 years ago. Serious, the next day, I woke up on time, and the living room was already tidied up. The blanket was neatly folded on the sofa, as if everything from last night was just a dream. Relieved, I have work, so I left early. Breakfast is ready in the kitchen. A sticky note was attached to the blanket, the familiar handwriting reminding me that someone had indeed been here and left quietly. Cheerful Alex, lunch today? Friendly, send me the address. I'll be there on time. Hopeful, I remembered something and opened another chat window. Cheerful, Michael. Lunch today. Emily will be there too. Friendly, after several tests and investigations, I found Michael to be a decent person. I'm always happy to play matchmaker. The reply came quickly. Excited, I owe you big time. Cheerful, the initial impression of Michael being an elite was just an illusion. After getting to know him, he had completely revealed his funny side to me.
Noon at the restaurant. Emily had once again chosen an elegant private dining room for our lunch. Just as I took my seat, I turned my head and, as expected, bumped into Michael.
What a coincidence, Ms. Emily, Ms. Alice.
Wow, what a coincidence. Michael, come join us.
Michael sat across from Emily and me, his gaze intensely focused on her. I picked up my porcelain cup, pretending not to notice. Just as I was getting excited about this potential romance, I saw a very familiar figure. James's eyes were locked on me, his gaze sweeping over Michael, and his expression darkened. It seemed he was here with his team for a meal. Whether by chance or intention, he sat down at a table right next to ours. The meal was exquisite and delicious, but I felt like I was sitting on pins and needles due to the unavoidable presence beside me.
Excuse me, I need to use the restroom.
After touching up my makeup and lingering for a bit, I stepped out and heard a commotion.
Alex, come quickly. James and Michael are fighting.
Without time to process the news, I rushed over with the others, pulling apart the grappling James and Michael.
James, have you lost your mind?
I shielded him from the flashing cameras, demanding an explanation.
Why did you suddenly attack me?
Emily had already pulled Michael back, who was equally agitated. I held James back, determined not to let things escalate further.
I'll take him away for now. You handle the aftermath.
In the car, looking at the silent, downcast James, I felt a surge of frustration and absurdity.
What is wrong with you? Why did you fight with Michael? Do you realize you're a public figure?
James's chest heaved with emotion, still trying to advance.
Why did you fight?
He was unfaithful.
What did you say? Unfaithful? Who was unfaithful?
Emily, Michael was unfaithful to your friend.
I was stunned, suddenly recalling Michael's little lover status.
I'm sorry, James. I lied to you. I'm not married, and Michael is not my lover. Michael likes Emily. It was all a lie, I told you.
James's face froze, his slightly open mouth and the red mark at the corner of his lips looking oddly comical.
You lied to me?
I lowered my head, unable to meet his gaze.
Open the door. I want to get out.
James opened the car door and stumbled out, his retreating figure looking somewhat desperate. I've tricked him again. James must hate me now. In less than half a day, James's name was trending on social media. High-definition videos of the incident were posted online, and my face was also captured.
I know this girl. We were high school classmates. Her name is Emily. Her family is quite wealthy. Her dad is a company boss and her mom passed away a long time ago. She cut ties with her family.
Here's the juicy part. James is her ex-boyfriend.
Wow, a fight, an ex-girlfriend, what an exciting combo.
Anyone got high-res pics of this girl? I want to see.
James's image is ruined, huh? Always acting so aloof. Now he's getting his comeuppance.
As a result, I too gained some of James's notoriety and was thoroughly scrutinized by the public. Emily's fingers hovered over the phone, hesitating. A familiar number flashed on the screen.
What's going on online? I go abroad for a trip and come back to this mess.
You better come up with a solution quickly. If it affects the company, I will.
And what will you do, Dad? If it affects your company's profits, it will also affect your luxurious lifestyle, won't it?
Emily, how dare you speak to your mother like that?
She's not my mom. My mother passed away long ago. Don't call me again. I told you 5 years ago, Emily, have nothing to do with the Smith family anymore. Let's not contact each other anymore, Mr. Smith.
Emily turned off her phone and threw herself onto the sofa. Suddenly, the doorbell rang urgently.
Emily, open the door, it's James.
Emily quickly opened the door, setting aside her confusion.
Are you okay? Whatever you do, don't go online.
Emily pulled James inside, fearing the neighbors might see.
Are you crazy? You're under scrutiny right now. Instead of responding, you come here. Aren't you afraid of ruining your career?
Emily, I'm sorry. It's my fault you're in this mess.
Emily walked towards the living room, avoiding his gaze.
Come in and sit down. I'll get you some water.
James remained where he was, murmuring.
Emily, we've been together for so long, and you've never told me about your family. I understand that when you first got together with me, it was just 4, but Emily, in these 5 years apart, have you ever thought of me, even for a moment?
Emily clenched the hem of her shirt, unable to speak. Memories of her time with James flooded back.
Emily, did you ever genuinely love me?
Trapped on the sofa, feeling the warmth radiating from James, a lump formed in Emily's throat. Emily remembered those past days. During her relationship with James, she found it sweet, but beneath the sweetness lay scars. She always claimed to love James deeply, but deep down, she believed love was the most elusive thing. Her father and mother once made grand promises and were deeply in love, but after her mother passed, her father quickly remarried, making their past vows and happiness seem like mere illusions to her. So, she never truly believed in eternal, unwavering love.
Even though James and I were once very close, I still held back. I didn't share my thoughts, my past, or my family with him. I didn't believe in love, so I couldn't rely on James. I was used to dealing with pain on my own, always thinking that this way, I had a way out.
5 years ago, after the upheaval in her family and her breakup, Emily looked into James' eyes with a serious expression.
James, I'm sorry.
James buried his head in Emily's neck, his voice choked with emotion.
Emily, you know, I'm not looking for an apology. I give up.
Emily's eyes started to well up as James continued, his voice filled with longing.
No matter if you think of me or not, I've been thinking about you for the past 5 years. When we broke up, I was just too angry and said things I didn't mean. I've regretted it ever since. Emily, I love you so much. Do you still want me?
James, what's so good about me? I approached you with ulterior motives, didn't trust you, left the country without looking back, and even lied to you.
James hugged Emily tightly, his voice muffled, and she could feel the vibration in his chest.
I don't care. As long as it's you, Emily, it's all good.
Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks uncontrollably.
You want to reconcile with me, but it's not the right time yet.
James lifted his face, looking aggrieved.
Why?
Emily wiped the tears from her face and reminded him.
Your news hasn't been dealt with yet. Let's talk after it's resolved.
Once it's resolved, will you be with me?
Seeing his eager expression, Emily couldn't help but laugh.
James, where did your cool demeanor go after all these years?
James' upturned eyes now drooped pitifully.
Being cool is useless. My assistant said that to win a girlfriend, you have to follow 3 transformations.
Emily's curiosity was piqued.
What 3 transformations?
Become a cat, become a tiger, and finally become a dog caught in the rain.
Emily was impressed.
Looks like all those romance dramas you acted in weren't for nothing. I used to be so stubborn, almost lost you, because I wouldn't lower my head.
James hugged Emily again, his tight embrace speaking of the full 5 years of longing during their separation.
Emily, I truly love you. So I hope you can genuinely see me as your partner, the person you trust the most. Let's reconcile. Even if we argue, we won't break up, and there will be no more silent departures. Trust me, love me, and be with me forever, okay?
Emily met his serious gaze, hugged him tightly, and made a promise.
Okay.
James finally responded online, explaining the situation to the public, clarifying that it was all a misunderstanding. Michael also responded on his personal social media, stating that it was all a mix-up. Just as things were about to calm down, James dropped another bombshell. He posted a photo of them together, officially announcing their relationship and declaring his exit from the entertainment industry. James lay on Emily's lap with a face full of joy.
From now on, I'll rely on you to support me.
You really, after working so hard for so many years, you're just going to give it up so easily? Don't you think it's a pity?
No pity. As long as I'm in the entertainment industry, we'll be under scrutiny. I don't want the public to constrain you. I want you to be free.
Emily straightened James' face and gently kissed him.
Thank you, James.
Plato believed that love is the meeting and combination of 2 half-circle people, and Emily deeply agreed. She used to be full of sharp edges and defenses, but it was James' appearance that broke through her facade and embraced her edges. In the long journey of life ahead, she had finally found her other half-circle,